I'm Sophia Grant, a corporate consultant. I spend my days solving problems for multi-million-dollar companies, untangling the messes they create in their financials. But today, I'm solving a problem of my own. My family has taken it too far, and now they're going to pay. My father, Charles, thought he could get away with it. He thought I wouldn't notice. But I did. A $45,000 loan, in my name, to fund my sister's failed business venture. I don't know why I'm surprised. He's always found a way to drag me into his messes. And my sister, Paige, she's always been too busy to care about the consequences. But this is different. I'm done being their backup plan. You see, they've been using me for years, dipping into my bank account like it was their personal ATM. They never thought I'd catch on. They thought I was weak, that I would keep bailing them out while they destroyed everything I worked for. Well, they were wrong. The second I saw that loan, I knew I had to fix it by any means necessary. It's time to flip the script. They'll never see me coming. Do you have any idea what you've done? I said to my father when I confronted him. His eyes flickered, guilt flashing for just a moment before he tried to brush me off. What are you going to do? Sophia, you're not going to ruin the family over this. He thought he could still talk down to me, like he always did, like I was a child. Ruin the family, I said, my voice steady. I'm just getting started. I've always known my family was broken. But today, as I sit in the dining room, the weight of it hits me harder than ever. Charles, my father, sits at the head of the table, his hands trembling slightly as he slices the turkey, pretending everything's fine. The elegance of the meal, the expensive wine, it all feels like a hollow facade. Elena, my mother, gazes at me over her wine glass, her smile tight, the kind she only gives when she wants something. And then there's Paige, my sister, who's barely old enough to understand the mess she's part of but is already deep in it. Elena, pass the mashed potatoes. I hear my father murmur, his voice flat, trying to pretend we're still the family that once sat at this table, laughing, with everything in place. He doesn't even look up, the words just drifting in the air like they're meaningless, like they don't carry the weight of years of exploitation. I glance at my mother, who doesn't even flinch when I catch her eye. She knows. She always knows. They all do. But they pretend. And I've spent my entire life playing along. Paige. What's that you're wearing? I ask. My voice steady but sharp. She twirls around, completely oblivious, showing off the lace dress she's wearing, my grandmother's wedding dress. The same dress that's supposed to be mine, locked away for years, preserved in my mother's cedar chest. It's vintage, she says with a grin. I had it made custom. Found this beautiful lace just sitting around upstairs. Rotting. I repeat, letting the word hang in the air. I don't know what's worse, the fact that she's wearing it like a trophy or the fact that she doesn't even understand its value. My grandmother's dress, the one that survived a journey from Ireland to Ellis Island, now reduced to something Paige wears for attention. And then I see it on her finger, the glint of a diamond, catching the light like it's meant to blind me. What's that? I ask, though I already know. It's an engagement ring. I don't know why it stings, why it feels like she's reaching into my chest and taking something I never gave her. Jax and I are engaged, she announces, as if it's a casual afterthought, the same way she always drops things into conversation to show off. But my stomach drops when I hear it. I glance at the screen on my phone, the buzz sharp against the silence. A notification. $3,800 charge. Cartier. Authorized user. Savannah. I feel the room tilt slightly. I grip the edge of the table, grounding myself as the world around me starts to crack open. Jax. The guy who's never had a real job in his life. The amateur DJ who smiles like he's won the lottery. Holds out his hand to my father. Thank you, sir. I promise to take good care of her, he says, as if this is all some game. And my father, he raises his glass. Not a word of concern about the mess we're in. Congratulations, sweetheart, he says, his voice as hollow as the rest of this scene. I should say something. I should smile and pretend this is okay, that this is what family is supposed to look like. But I can't. Not anymore. Not after everything they've taken from me. Everything I've had to fix. While they live in this fantasy world. I stare at my father as he carves the turkey, his eyes never meeting mine. His silence speaks louder than anything else. Don't be jealous, Quinn, he says, his voice cool, like he's teaching me a lesson. Be happy for your sister. Jealous. I can't breathe for a moment. The word detonates inside me like a bomb. The hospital room flashes through my mind. The cold, sterile air. The loneliness of lying in a bed with no one but my thoughts. The night after my surgery. Calling my mother. Needing someone. Just wanting her to care. And instead, hearing the sound of a cocktail party in the background. Her voice sharp and irritated. Quinn, your card declined at Nordstrom. Can you fix it? I'm in the middle of lunch. The anger bubbles up. Hot and swift. I look at Paige. At the dress. The ring. Everything they've taken from me. And it's too much. The hollow facade they've created, this family has been a lie for far too long. I stand up. The chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. Jax, I say. My voice calm but biting. That's a beautiful ring. 3. 8 carats. I'd guess. Excellent clarity. I pull out my phone, turning the screen toward him. My Amex just flagged it as fraud. Paige's face twists into something between confusion and disbelief. You're being dramatic. Am I? I grab my coat. The fabric smooth and expensive against my fingertips. This is my armor now, not the family I once hoped for. I turn, heading for the door. Enjoy your dinner. I'm sure the pie will be delicious. Quinn Alexandra Porter. I hear my mother's voice shout after me. You sit back down this instant. But I'm already out the door. Already done. And I don't look back. I opened my laptop with a practiced ease. The kind that comes from years of knowing exactly where to find what you need. The screen flickered to life. And I opened my banking app. I wasn't sure what I was looking for at first. But I knew something was off. Then, I saw it, a charge I didn't recognize. It was too large to ignore. Too specific to be a mistake. $45. 000. I didn't even have to look at the name of the merchant. I knew exactly where it came from. My heart didn't race, but I felt a cold, calculating calm settle over me. I clicked into the transaction details, scanning the information. The loan had been approved in my name, my signature forged, to fund Paige's business. My breath caught, but only for a second. I wasn't surprised. It was exactly what I expected. I sat back in my chair, the light of the screen casting an eerie glow across my face. How did they think I wouldn't notice? I murmured to myself, though there was no one there to answer. Of course, I'd noticed. They always thought I was too busy, too nice, too willing to bail them out when things went wrong. But this was different. This wasn't just a little mishap or a forgotten payment, it was deliberate. They had crossed a line. And now? They would pay for it. I dialed Leo's number, the one person who could help me put this all into motion. It rang twice before he picked up. Sophia. His voice was calm, steady. Always a relief in moments like this. I need your eyes on something, I said. my voice flat, as I navigated through the app to the loan documents. "What's going on?" Leo asked, his concern obvious. I pushed the phone closer to my ear, still staring at the screen, letting the words sink in. My father forged my signature to take out a loan. A $45,000 loan in my name to fund Paige's latest failure. There was a pause on the other end of the line. A brief silence where I could almost hear him taking it in. "That's a big one," he said finally, his voice low. "What do you want to do about it?" I swallowed. I had no time for indecision. No time for second guessing. This was the moment everything changed. "I'm going to handle it," I replied, my words hard and precise. "I need you to help me take it apart. Every piece of it." The silence stretched for a moment longer before he spoke again. "I'll get to work." I clicked through the pages of the loan application. The same signature I'd seen on so many documents, my father's neat, precise block letters. The realization hit me like a slap to the face. This wasn't just about money. This was about control. He had always thought he could pull the strings of my life, using me as his puppet to get what he wanted. But now I was the one pulling the strings. I pulled out my phone again, this time to check my credit report. It was already flagged as suspicious. I tapped through, scanning the details. There it was, an SBA loan, opened 4 months ago, with my name on it, my social security number, and my father's signature. I felt a slow, icy rage build up inside me. I wasn't just a victim here. I was collateral damage in their game, and they had no idea what was coming. I slammed my phone down onto the table and leaned back in my chair, letting the realization settle. It had taken years of me supporting them, financially paying off their debts, fixing their mistakes. But now, I wasn't going to be their savior anymore. I was done. I picked up the phone again, ready to make my next move. There was no turning back now. They had stolen from me. Now, I was going to make them pay for it. And this time, they wouldn't get away with it. I opened the bank app again, the cold blue light illuminating my fingers as they hovered over the screen. It felt like an act of war. But in this moment, I wasn't hesitating. I went straight to the account settings, scrolling through the options like I'd done this 1,000 times before. I clicked freeze on the first card, then the next, and then the third each tap, sending a sharp chill up my spine. They thought they could control me, use me. But now, it was my turn to take control. As the screen confirmed each action, I leaned back in my chair, watching the digits disappear in front of me. "What are you going to do now, Dad?" I whispered to the empty room. I'd always been the one to clean up their messes, paying off debts they'd run up, handling their finances like a dutiful daughter. But no more. I tapped through the accounts, feeling the satisfaction of each decision, each click solidifying my resolve. My father's voice echoed in my head. From all those times he'd demanded money, always assuming I would fix things. "You always take care of us, Quinn. You always have." I felt the weight of his words. But it wasn't pity I felt now. It was power. The power to walk away, to say no. I didn't owe them anything anymore. The phone buzzed on the table. Another notification. A text from my mother. I glanced down at it, knowing exactly what it would say. "Quinn, your card was declined at the grocery store. We need you to fix this. Now." I couldn't stop the laugh that escaped me. It wasn't even bitter, it was just the cold realization that they were still in their world, completely unaware of how much control I had just taken. I put the phone face down, blocking her words from my sight. I didn't need to read them. I already knew what was coming. Next, I pulled up the mortgage payments. The one thing I'd always handled, keeping them in their little bubble of luxury. I paused, fingers hovering over the cancel button. This was it. This was the final cut. I hit it. It was done. I leaned back again, letting the silence wash over me. For the first time in my life, I felt lighter, like I'd just shed 1,000 pounds of guilt and obligation. The notifications from the bank kept coming in, every single one, a reminder of how far they'd pushed me, how much I'd given, and how easily they'd taken it for granted. "This is for me," I whispered to the empty room. "I'm done." I set the phone down, the quiet of my apartment settling in like a breath of fresh air. And then, just to be sure, I checked one more thing, the recurring payments. One by one, I clicked through them, canceling the cable, the internet, the streaming services they used to pretend they still had a life. Every dollar they'd ever relied on from me was now gone. I was finished being their safety net. "Figure it out yourselves," I muttered, the words final, satisfying. I let out a slow breath and stood up from the desk, my legs shaking slightly from the adrenaline that still buzzed through my veins. The power was mine now. They'd have to face the consequences of their own choices, and I would be the one watching from a distance, finally free from their demands. "Enjoy the silence," I said to the empty room, the weight lifting off my chest. It wasn't just a financial decision, it was freedom. The phone buzzed, the sound slicing through the silence of my apartment. I didn't have to look at it to know who it was. "Elena." Her text came through. Short and demanding. "Your card was declined. We need you to fix this. Now." I felt a cold smile pull at the corner of my lips as I stared at the message, knowing she had no idea what was coming. She still thought I was there to bail them out, that I would keep her life of luxury going without a second thought. I leaned back in my chair, eyes narrowing as I read it again. "Fix it." Just like that. She expected me to drop everything, like I was her servant, her unpaid assistant. My fingers curled around the phone as I started typing my response. But then I stopped, staring at the screen, wondering just how far they were willing to go before they realized they couldn't control me anymore. I didn't respond. Instead, I set the phone down and went to the kitchen, making myself a cup of coffee. I needed to think. The last few weeks had been filled with a kind of cold satisfaction, knowing I had finally taken control. But now, as the hours ticked by, I began to feel the tension growing. It wasn't enough to freeze their accounts and cancel their bills. No, I needed to see it all fall apart, their world. Not just mine. The next morning, I woke to more messages. This time from Paige. She wasn't as subtle as Elena. "Why did you cancel the card? This is getting out of hand. Quinn." The words dripped with venom, but I couldn't bring myself to care. She had always gotten what she wanted, no questions asked, no boundaries respected. But I wasn't going to let her play that card anymore. I stared at the screen, tapping out a reply. "Out of hand. You still think you can live like this without consequences? Enjoy the mess." The satisfaction of sending that message was sharper than I had anticipated. For the first time, I wasn't trying to fix things for them. For the first time, I was watching them burn in the consequences of their own actions. The phone buzzed again. This time it was Charles. "What the hell is going on?" "Quinn." I didn't even open the message. I knew it was coming. His voice echoed in my mind, demanding, controlling. "You always take care of us." "You always have?" That phrase had haunted me for so long. But now, it was just a hollow, empty request. He had no power over me anymore. I put the phone down and looked out the window. I could hear the city waking up, the honking of cars, the hum of life continuing. And yet, inside, my family was falling apart. Charles didn't know it yet, but he was going to lose everything. He was going to have to face the reality of the mess he'd created for so long. And it would be me, the one he least expected, who would make sure he had nowhere to hide. By the time the afternoon rolled around, the messages had become more frantic. Quinn, you've gone too far. Fix this. They were all the same. Elena, Paige, and Charles, they all needed something from me. But this time, I wasn't there to save them. They had crossed a line, and now they were going to pay the price. And as I sat there, watching their world begin to crumble, I realized just how far I'd come. No more being their safety net. No more sacrificing my own future for them. I had let them control me for too long. But now, it was my turn. My family was finally facing the consequences of their actions, and I was done being the one to pick up the pieces. I sat at my desk, the hum of the city barely audible through the window. The paperwork I needed was spread out in front of me, but the real work was already happening in my mind. Leo's voice echoed in my thoughts, steady, calm, reassuring. You can't let them get away with this, Sophia. Not this time. You have everything you need. His words were the fuel I needed to move forward, to finally put the plan into action. The first step was simple: gather the evidence. The loan, the forged signature, my father's gambling debt. Every document, every detail that could prove their betrayal had to be collected and organized. I glanced at my phone, the screen lighting up with yet another text from Elena. We need you to fix this. It's going too far. I let the words sit there for a moment before I put the phone face down, ignoring her request as I moved through the documents in front of me. There was no turning back now. Are you sure you want to do this? Leo's voice came through the speaker of my phone. He'd been helping me pull everything together, but I could hear the concern in his voice. This is big. They'll fight you. They won't back down. I could almost hear the weight of his caution, but I was past caring. I'm not backing down, I said, my voice steady. This is their mess, and now it's mine to fix. There was a pause on the other end, then Leo's calm reply. All right, let's do this. I went through every document, signed contracts, bank statements, the loan agreement. I meticulously scanned each one, making sure nothing was overlooked. The paperwork had to be perfect. Leo had told me, time and time again, that I had to be the one in control. And now, I was. Once everything was ready, I emailed Leo the files, knowing he would handle the legal side. But that wasn't enough for me. I needed to see their faces when they realized what was coming. So, I set everything up. The reports, the official documents, the proof of fraud. The clock was ticking. Then, the phone rang again. It was Paige. What the hell? Quinn, she snapped. You're ruining everything. Why don't you just fix this and stop playing games? I leaned back in my chair, the words like a dull hammer in my ear. You don't get to play the victim anymore, I said, each word calculated. Cold. This is what happens when you steal from me. When you lie to me. When you think I'll keep cleaning up your mess. Her response was what I expected. You're going to destroy the family. Do you even care? She spat. You don't get to lecture me about family. Paige, I shot back, my voice cutting through the phone like a knife. Family isn't about taking and taking until there's nothing left. I hung up without another word. I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. The legal battle had started, and I was going to win it. They were going to lose everything. The house. The money. Everything they had taken for granted. The quiet satisfaction of knowing I was finally in control washed over me like a cold wave. I sat there, waiting, watching as the minutes ticked by, wondering how long it would take for them to realize what I had done. When they finally did, It wouldn't be pretty. But that was their problem, not mine. I'd given them everything for years. Now, they would see the consequences of their actions. Leo called back. It's in motion. You're ready. They won't get away with this. I leaned back, staring at the documents one last time. I know, I said. A small, satisfied smile pulling at the corners of my lips. I'm just getting started. I arrived at their house late in the afternoon, the golden light casting long shadows across the lawn. The familiar sight of the colonial home should have been comforting. But instead, it felt like a trap. The door opened before I even had the chance to knock. And there stood Elena, her face tight with a smile she clearly didn't believe in. Quinn, she said, her voice dripping with fake warmth. We need to talk. This has gone far enough. I walked past her without a word, my coat brushing against the doorframe, the fabric cool and heavy. I didn't need to talk. I had nothing left to say. They had all crossed a line. As I entered the living room, Charles was sitting in his usual spot, his arm draped lazily over the armrest. His eyes narrowed as he watched me. Paige, of course, was nowhere to be found, probably hiding somewhere, letting the others take the heat. Elena closed the door behind us with a soft click and stood in the doorway, blocking the exit. You don't have to do this. Quinn, you've made your point. Now fix this. I looked at her, the words sticking in my throat for a moment before I spoke. Fix it. This is your mess. Elena, you fix it. My voice was steady, but underneath, there was an ice-cold fury that burned hotter the more I thought about what they'd done. Charles leaned forward in his chair, his face reddening with irritation. You're going to ruin everything. You're making a huge mistake. He said it with that same arrogance, like he still thought he had control, like I was still his little girl. But I wasn't. Not anymore. I crossed the room slowly, the weight of every step reminding me of just how far I'd come. I'm not ruining anything. Dad, I'm just letting the truth catch up with you. I stopped in front of him, watching as his confidence faltered. He was still trying to play the tough guy, but I could see the cracks in his facade. This isn't about family anymore. Is it? I continued, my voice cutting through the tension. It never was. It was always about control. And now I've taken it back. The silence that followed hung thick in the air, the only sound being the faint ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Charles opened his mouth to say something, but nothing came out. That's when Paige finally appeared, her face flushed with anger. You've done enough. Quinn, she shouted, her voice shrill, as if trying to cover the fear in her eyes. This is about us, not just you. I didn't flinch. No, Paige, this is about you and how you've taken everything from me. From all of us. I'm just here to collect. Her eyes narrowed as she stepped closer, her posture stiff, but she didn't dare touch me. You're heartless, she spat. I'm not heartless, I replied, my voice low but sharp. I'm done being your fallback. I've spent my whole life bailing you out, paying for your mistakes. No more. Elena stepped forward, her voice trembling now. Please. Quinn. This has to stop. We're your family. The word hung in the air like a stale afterthought. Meaningless. Family, I echoed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. You don't get to claim that word anymore. Not after what you've done. I reached into my bag and pulled out the documents. Everything I had gathered. This is what happens when you think you can use me. Fraud. Forged signatures. Stolen money. I laid them out on the coffee table, the crisp paper rustling as I spread them out. Charles stared at the papers, his face pale. You wouldn't do this to us. Quinn, he muttered. though his voice lacked the conviction it had before. You won't ruin your family. But I wasn't the one ruining anything. They were. They had been for years. And now it was time for them to pay the price. I pulled out my phone, the image of the bank's fraud alert flashing on the screen. I'm giving you a choice. Sell the house. Pay me back. Or I send these reports to the authorities. Fraud. Identity theft. All of it. My fingers hovered over the send button, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. Elena's face turned ashen. You can't. You won't. But I already knew she was wrong. Try me, I said. You have 48 hours. After that, I'll make sure everyone knows who you really are. The room was still, the air thick with tension. No one spoke, but I could see the fear in their eyes. They were trapped, and I was the one holding the key. Do it, I said, as I turned to leave, and don't come back until you've figured out how to pay me back. As I stepped out the door, I could hear Elena's voice faintly, desperately calling after me, but I didn't turn around. There was nothing left to say. They had lost. And for the first time in my life, I was free. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the collar of my coat, the cool metal of my keys pressing against my palm. It had been a week since I walked out of their house, since I had finally cut the ties that had bound me to them for so long. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, almost mocking the silence that had followed my departure. For the first time in my life, the world felt like it was finally mine, uncomplicated, clear, and free from their constant demands. The phone buzzed on the table beside me, and I didn't need to look to know it was another message from Elena. I ignored it, instead pulling up the email from the property buyer. The final confirmation of the house sale. They had no choice but to sell. I could almost feel their frustration, their desperation to keep up the act, to hold on to the life they'd taken from me. But they couldn't anymore. The house was gone. The money was gone. And there was nothing left for them to fall back on. I could almost hear Charles's voice in my head. The same words he always said when he needed something, when he thought I owed him. You always take care of us. Quinn. You always have. But those days were over. I'd taken care of myself for the first time in years, and now they would have to learn how to take care of themselves, or not. Later that evening, I received the call I had been expecting. It was from Paige, her voice strained, cracking under the weight of the reality they were facing. You've destroyed everything, she said, her words sharp with anger and fear. Do you even care? I didn't respond right away. I just let her words sink in. She thought I should feel guilty. But I didn't. I had finally freed myself, and I wasn't about to apologize for it. I care. Paige, I said finally, my voice calm, controlled. I care enough to make sure you never do this again. And I care enough to make sure you all learn what it means to live without me. There was silence on the other end, and for a brief moment, I imagined her face. The shock, the disbelief. But I had no sympathy left for her. Or for any of them. As the days passed, I watched from a distance as the family crumbled. The sale of the house had gone through quickly, and the money was now out of their reach. The debts they had run up in my name. The lies they'd told, everything was unraveling. But it wasn't my problem anymore. I had walked away. And now, they had to face the consequences of their actions. I didn't check the phone again. I didn't look at their messages. They were on their own now, with nothing to rely on but the mess they had created. For years, I had been their fallback, their safety net. And now they had no one left but themselves. The final moment came a few days later when I opened my email to find a message from Leo, confirming everything was in motion, legal action was being taken, and the charges had been filed. My family was officially in ruins, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. It felt like the world had shifted beneath me, like I had finally broken free from the chains that had held me hostage for so long. I stood by the window, looking out at the city, the lights twinkling in the distance. For the first time, I wasn't looking back. And as I walked out of my apartment, closing the door behind me, I knew I had won. Thank you for watching the story. If you found this journey of revenge and justice satisfying, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts on how far you'd go for justice, and let us know if you've ever been pushed to take control. Stay tuned for more.